Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you for the latest one of my videos, and today, as promised, it is one of my Q&As. Haven't done one of these for a while, and I put out the question, as usual, on Twitter, and hundreds of you have replied with comments and opinions. As always, with one of these things, I'm not going to go through them all because a lot of them are replicated. They're the same sort of question coming in from different people, and there's no point in me just going through them all because I'll just be boring you with the same answer time and time and time again. As you can imagine, loads on Thomas Partey, loads on Coutinho, loads on Gabriel, loads on all sorts of things, George Lewis. So I'm not going to go through them all. I can't. There's no point. It'll bore you. So I'm going to get cracking. And if I don't answer your question in one of these or one of the couple, I'm going to probably split this into a couple of videos at least because there's so many, and it would just be an epic 2-hour video or something otherwise. So if I don't answer your question or talk about your opinion or your comment that you've had, I'm not ignoring you. It's just because I've already spoken on it and answered someone else's question, which is similar. So please, I'm not ignoring you. Apologies, but I'm not. Right, let's get cracking. Because as I said, there's plenty to go through. Apologies again for sort of looking down in this direction for a lot of this video, but I'm reading the questions as they come up on my laptop here. So yeah, you're just gonna have to put up with me looking down to the right, I'm afraid. Let's start with Thomas Partey. Where else? The running theme of Arsenal throughout this transfer window, throughout even before the window started. All the links with Thomas Partey, and Arsenal Fanatics News has a question. Says, is Partey signing in the next few days? Is this true, or has it been speculation from the start? Look, it's not speculation at all. I mean, the fact he might be signing in a few days, that's speculation, because I certainly don't understand that that's true. But Thomas Partey, Arsenal want Thomas Partey. That's not speculation at all. It's facts. Arsenal want Thomas Partey. Thomas Partey is quite interested in the move to Arsenal. He hasn't signed his new contract that was on offer from Atletico Madrid because of that, although Atletico are now struggling to meet the demands of that contract anyway because of COVID, but they have promised that they will do in a year's time once the financial implications of COVID have settled down a little bit. But in terms of Arsenal's interest in Thomas Partey, it's absolutely 100% true. It's just a case of, can they find the money? Can they tempt Atletico into a swap deal perhaps, or can they sell some players first which will generate the funds which will allow them to go and buy out his release clause, which is about 50 million euros. And that's it. And Arsenal aren't at that stage just yet, so we're going to have to wait and see whether it happens or not. I think that's one that's going to run Atletico obviously out of the Champions League now, which helps with that situation. But Arsenal at the moment working on other deals as well, Gabriel, as we know. So Thomas Partey, answer to your question, it's not speculation, not at all. It's 100% fact. Arsenal want Thomas Partey. It's just a case of, can they get the deal done? And right now, as it stands, the deal isn't done, and Atletico are very firm in the fact they won't take any swap deal, or although the only way that Arsenal are going to get Thomas Partey is by paying his release clause. And as it stands, Arsenal aren't doing that. So we'll have to wait and see in terms of Thomas Partey. Kabengua, Mark Patrice, sorry if that's a bad pronunciation, says, with a new team spine of Leno, Emi, Gabriel Saliba, Partey, Xhaka, Orba as our striker, I feel like we'll be able to compete under Arteta. What do you think of that? And is it possible to get the two players we need to make it work out? I would love to get Aouar or Coutinho. Lots in there. In terms of that spine, yeah, very good. If Arsenal get Gabriel, of course, which hopefully they will do. They're trying. The Partey Xhaka axis I very much like. Obviously, Dani Ceballos has played very, very well after the restart. Played really, really well. But Arsenal and Real Madrid pretty far off at the moment in terms of whether he was going to come back for another season on loan. Real holding out potentially for a fair bit of money from Ceballos, interest from elsewhere in Spain. Also, Real struggling with COVID. The financial implications brought on by COVID might not be bringing in too many players this summer, so Ceballos may well be an option for Zidane, even though Zidane hasn't really rated and we used him before. So yeah, I mean, I really like the Partey Xhaka access if it happens. Partey is a player I've spoken about so many times on this. I think it'd be great. It'd make a massive, massive improvement to this Arsenal team. Gabriel and Saliba is an interesting centre-back partnership. It's a very young one and a very untested one, certainly in the Premier League. Whether that's what Arsenal will do straight away, I'm not so sure. I think if they do manage to get Gabriel over the line, and obviously Saliba's in, I think Mikel Arteta will have to bed those players in because of their inexperience, because of the fact they've never played in England before. I think David Luiz, certainly for the first half of the season, is still going to have a very, very big part to play at Arsenal because of that, because of their age and his experience. He can play alongside them and help bring them in. So yeah, I think those players you've mentioned there in the spine of the team, I think if they can get them in, it's certainly very encouraging for Arsenal going forward. But I think you've got to wait as well and not place too much expectations, especially on the young defenders who you have to give time to adjust to a new country and a new way of playing. In terms of Coutinho, I've said it before on this. I know there's an awful lot of noise about Coutinho and Arsenal. The fact what people I've spoken to at Arsenal, when the noise is coming out of the club, they're very, very adamant that Coutinho will not be signing for Arsenal this summer. Now we'll have to wait and see. There was noises coming out of Arsenal last summer that Nicolas Pepe wasn't going to sign for Arsenal. He did, despite what people were telling us, and he did. And so we'll have to wait and see whether that's something similar happens with Coutinho. The fact that Kia Joorabchian is his agent makes me think it's impossible to completely write it off. But we'll have to wait and see. And you've also got the fact that Koeman's now in charge of Barcelona. Does he fancy Coutinho? Will he want him in his plans next season? He might do, and that might make Barca's determination to move Coutinho on, it might lessen it. So we'll have to wait and see. But as far as I'm aware, and right as it stands right now with Coutinho, I don't think he's going to be joining Arsenal. That's the noises that we've been told from people at the club. Right, next up we have a question from Here Is Mud, who says, since many of our scouts were shown the exit door as Arsenal working upon a new scouting network, how good is Houssem, and what are our targets if Lacazette leaves? Can't give you too much on Arsenal's targets if Lacazette leaves. Pretty unclear on that at the moment. Obviously, we don't know if Lacazette's going to go for a start. They like Edouard up at Celtic. I've talked about him before. He's a player they've watched extensively. They've got good contacts with Celtic, having signed Kieran Tierney last summer, and Nick Hammond's the sporting director up there, who's a former Arsenal player, former Arsenal goalkeeper. He's got good contacts with the club still, but we don't know if Lacazette's going yet. And so in terms of genuine targets for a replacement, I'm not so sure on it. How good is Houssem? He's very good. He's very well respected at Arsenal, really highly rated. Obviously did a lot of good work for Team Sky as their sort of legal expert before he came over to Arsenal in 2017, I think it was. Originally sort of billed as a contract negotiator, contract expert, but he's more than that. He's director of football operations there, has been for a couple of years now. Very influential in a lot of transfer deals, was very influential in getting the Saliba deal done last summer, and he's going to be working really in tandem really with Edu and Mikel Arteta on the technical side of things now, after Raul's exit, and will be working in terms of getting deals done and working within budgets and helping with the recruitment side of things a lot more. So he's very highly rated at the club, and it's sort of as an impressive figure, which is why he survived the review that Raul didn't. In terms of the scouting network, it's an interesting one. I see, like Arsenal also almost going back a little bit. They've still got a big scouting network. The departures, there's quite a lot of them. They're extensive, but there's still a lot of scouts who are going to be working for Arsenal. But Edu certainly seems to be wanting to go back to a more data-driven type thing, which you got to look at and think, why did they let Sven Mislintat go? Because it just seems like it'd be perfect, but obviously Sven lost out in the power battle that was between him and Raul in the vacuum that was created after Ivan Gazidis did a runner to AC Milan, and it just feels like, I still think that's just a big miss for Arsenal, that having had Sven Mislintat and then letting him slip through the fingers. I think now, especially if they are going back to this data-driven model, which it certainly seems like they are, then you kind of feel like he's going to be a big miss. Eddie McQueen says, hi Charles, some reports that I read say we're in for an attacking midfielder, Coutinho being mentioned, and as much as I want someone of that calibre in that position, we must remember we have Emile Smith-Rowe. Is he in Arsenal's plans next season? Yes, he absolutely is in Arsenal's plans next season, Emile Smith-Rowe. I don't think he's going to be going out on loan. Again, that might change after he comes back and sort of sits down with Mikel Arteta, but the noises that we're getting in terms of Emile Smith-Rowe is that he will be sticking around for the coming season and will feature for Arsenal. And I'm really excited by that. I think Smith-Rowe is a great talent. I think he's got an awful lot about his game that's good. You speak to anyone at Huddersfield and they absolutely loved him after his loan spell there last season. And I think you just kind of look at what Mikel Arteta has done with a lot of players, and I look at what Smith-Rowe's got, and I think it's really exciting to think about him working with Arteta and what Arteta could get out of him. So yeah, for what I understand, Smith Rowe is certainly going to be part of Arsenal's plans for next season. Arsenal pitch side asked, are the recent signings under 23s level genuinely believe can potentially make it to the first team as a plan for these players on a free and then move them on a couple of years' time for a fee-generated income stream? I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. Look, if they turn out to be world beaters like they've just signed George Lewis, pretty much completely unheard of before Arsenal signed him, came from the lower leagues in Norway, signed him, got that deal done yesterday. It's been in the pipeline for a long time, and I've done a fair few videos and stories about it on Goal. And now they've signed Tim Akinola as well, who's been released by Huddersfield, just snapped him up. They've got the guy coming in from Tottenham who was released. So it's a different way of approaching things with the recruitment department, which has changed massively. The academy recruitment department now being led mainly by Lee Heron, who was the academy manager at Reading, then went to Arsenal, was head of football operations at the academy, and then in the shake-up after Edu's review, he's now sort of head of talent ID, and he's brought his own team in. And now these are the sort of signings we're seeing where Arsenal are looking at. The idea is, still that they could hopefully make a push for the first team, but if not, then they could still be sold for decent amount of funds. You've got to think that the 23s need numbers adding to it because an awful lot of players gone out on loan. We're going to see more and more of that. Some of the players have moved on as well, and an awful lot of them have moved up to the first team because that's the way things are going at Arsenal at the moment. So they needed new bodies in the 23s, and these are the players they're recruiting. But they're very much thinking like George. I know that they really like George Lewis, and what they saw of him in his trial, they're really, really impressed. That's why they pushed to get that deal done. Same with Akinola. So they are seen as hopefully going to make a push for the first team, but if not, certainly to generate some revenue out of it as well. What is a realistic expectation for William Saliba this season? Asked Axel. Well, I've kind of covered that a little bit in one of my previous answers. It wasn't specifically about Saliba, but I spoke about the expectation level with him. I think Arsenal are expecting him to make a big impact. You look at him; he's such a towering presence. He's impressive. Everyone who speaks to him in France says how good he is. He's fantastic at duels and one-on-one situations. So, yeah, look, he's going to be part of the first team this season. I just think you've got to wait and give him a little bit of time to settle to a new club, to a new country, to a new league. You can't expect him just to walk on and bang, hit it straight from the off and become this Van Dijk that an awful lot of fans are expecting him to be. You've got to give the kid time. So I'm not sure he'll be a starter straight away. I think you might have to bed him in and ease him into a little bit. I think it might be a bit harsh just throw him straight in. You've got to think Arsenal still have David Luiz very experienced. I know he's copped a fair bit of flack since he's moved to Arsenal, but he showed certainly in the run to the cup final how good he can be when he's bang on it. Pablo Mari's coming back fairly soon. Mustafi as well. Yes, they're injured at the moment, but there's plenty of centre-backs there. So Rob Holding as well. I just think with Saliba that you've got to give him time. Even if he does start straight away because of the injuries to others, if he makes the odd mistake, we've got to give him time. We can't place too much expectation on him because he's so young. He's so inexperienced. And he played about 30 senior games at senior level. And Mikel Arteta has spoken about him before, and I know he's going to speak about him again in the build-up to the new season because he's going to face a lot of questions about him, just because of the expectation level. But I think everyone's just got to calm it a little bit with Saliba. Don't expect him to be Virgil van Dijk from the start. What else? By all accounts, we have to pay the release clause to get Partey, says Josh Arsenal. Do you expect this to happen before the season, or do we need outgoing first? I've already kind of commented on this already, so I won't waste too much time on it, Josh. But I do expect Arsenal to need to make some outgoings first. So desperately need to make outgoings. You look at the centre backs as well. I'm not just talking about Partey here, but they need to get some centre backs out because they've got so many of them. And in terms of Partey, I think certainly the release clause is very, very high. It's not huge, and in the non-COVID era, it certainly wouldn't be beyond the realms of possibility, but it's still a high fee that Arsenal need to find the money for. And I think you've got to look at selling Guendouzi, potentially even Torreira, to raise the funds to be able to go and get Thomas Partey in. How do the quarantine rules affect the players coming back from holidays or transfer targets coming from medicals and contract signing, says Betsy. Interesting one. Obviously, there's lots of quarantine rules at the moment, but in terms of where Arsenal's players have gone, I don't think there's any players who have the current squad who are away in areas that are got quarantine zones placed on them. Arsenal were very, they told the players where they could go this summer. They made sure they weren't going anywhere where at that point there were quarantine rules imposed. So you look at Aubameyang at the moment, he's in Italy, which is fine. David Luiz is in Italy, so they're all going to countries where they're allowed to go right now. Obviously it can change like that, and we saw it with France, how quickly that quarantine measure was brought in. Gabriel's an interesting one. He's in France, obviously, where the quarantine is a 2-week period if they come in from France. So I'm not sure if that changes because he's an elite sportsman and because of the testing that's available. If that would change, I doubt it, but it might. So I don't think it's going to... in terms of Arsenal's current players, I don't think it's going to have too big of an impact. They're all due back at the end of this week anyway. In terms of new signings, potentially, but just because of the nature of the sport and the elite level sport and the nature of the testing that's available, it might be a way that Arsenal can get round it, and that potential new signings don't have to sit at home for 2 weeks before joining up with the teammates. See, Hasmir Taye says, any interesting players Arsenal are looking to sell apart from Lacazette and Socrates? Also, what are the details of Napoli's gentleman's agreement with Lille for Gabriel? Now, I don't know of any gentleman agreement with Lille for Gabriel with Napoli. Obviously, I've seen what's been said about it, but I don't think that's the case. Lille's general manager was on talking about it, even on Sky Sports News last week, saying there is no gentleman's agreement with any club. So I just don't believe there's going to be a case where Lille are going to say, no, you have to go to Napoli. They've accepted bids from clubs. They've been very straight, Lille, the whole way through this, as they were last season with Nicolas Pepe. They've accepted bids from clubs. They've told clubs what they needed to pay. The clubs have agreed to pay that, and now it's down to the player. So I don't think there is any gentleman's agreement with Napoli. I think you can rule that one out for me. In terms of players Arsenal are looking to sell, there's plenty of them. Plenty of players Arsenal would be happy to get rid of this summer if possible. Mustafi, Rob Holding, Mohamed El Neni, Mkhitaryan we know about. That's still not completely sorted out in terms of what's going to be happening with Mkhitaryan next season. Technically, he's still an Arsenal player. It's from what we've understand, he will be at Roma one way or the other next season, but we don't know exactly how yet, and that's still being negotiated. So there's plenty of them. Like I said, Guendouzi, absolutely. Arsenal are trying to sell. They've been offering around to absolutely everyone, trying to find a solution to that problem. Lucas Torreira. AC Milan, there is interest in AC Milan from Lucas Torreira. That's been reported before, and it is the case. And there's other interest in him from Italy as well. And Lucas Torreira is pretty open to a move should that happen. He's not going to absolutely desperate bang the door down to get out of Arsenal, but if a serious offer arrives from Italy, then that would be something that he would think about, and Arsenal would think about. So there's plenty of them. Arsenal need to raise funds. They need to help with the transfer budget. They need to lessen the numbers in the squad as well, especially at centre back. So I think there's an awful lot of things still to play out in this transfer window. And the transfer window, remember, runs for a fair while yet. The season may well be starting, but the transfer window runs well beyond that. So there's lots of ins and outs, I think, still to come at Arsenal. Guna Man AK says, hi Charles, is all about announcement just a case of waiting for him to return from holiday and get picks and interviews done? As far as I'm aware, yes. Still, the deal's been pretty much agreed, has been, but as far as I'm aware, hasn't actually been signed yet. And that will be happening once he gets back from holiday. As I said, he's in Italy. He's due to start back training on Saturday with the rest of the squad. So I think it's just a matter of time before we can all celebrate and we see Arsenal Twitter exploding when Orba signs Dating, as everyone says. Alukayode, sorry if that's wrong, asked about Houssem Aouar. I'm not sure about Aouar, I have to say. I've seen the links, there's lots of them. I'm sure he's a player that Arsenal are absolutely looking at because he's a very good player. We've seen that in the Champions League already, but there's an awful lot of interest in him from elsewhere as well. I just think it's one that's going to be a little bit out of Arsenal's price range, especially given his form for Lyon in this run to the Champions League semi-finals. So I'm not sure if that's one that Arsenal are going to be able to get done. Timmy says, hi Charles, is it possible we still have Lacazette playing for us this season? Absolutely, I think it is. They've got to make a decision with Laka. Mikel says has hinted at that. He's only got 2 years left in his contract, so you've got to think it's either give him a new deal now or sell now, and that's going to be resolved with talks between the player and the club. Juventus heavily linked with Lacazette. From what I understand, speaking to people in Turin, he is on their target, but he's on their list, but it's a very, very long list, and he's certainly not the very, very top of that list. He's one of the players that they're looking at, but he's not at the top of the list. So whether anything happens with Juventus, we'll have to wait and see. But he is a player who Arsenal, if a decent bid came in, would be, I'm pretty sure they would be open to sell him, but nothing's happened yet with Lacazette, and he's happy in London. Gets on very, very well at Arsenal, obviously with very good friends with Aubameyang. So we'll have to wait and see on it. Personally, I think it's probably a good time to move Lacazette on, but then you have the issue of bringing in a replacement, as I've already spoken about in this video. You know, that's not going to be very, very easy. But I just think given his age, given the fact you've probably got to give him a new deal, because if you don't, then he's going to be down to 1 year next season. Then you've got this whole, next summer, and then you've got this whole issue again of having a top-level striker, only 1 year left on his contract. Personally, if a decent offer came in for him now, even if you could maybe get a decent swap deal potentially out of someone for him, for me, the ideal situation potentially would be Atletico Madrid, because they've wanted him before, and that can help you with Thomas Partey. So we'll have to wait and see with Lacazette. As I said, there's still a long, long way to go in this transfer window. Unknown resource. It's a good at. It says, hello Charles, my question is, what is the effect on the players when a person like Raul has been fired from the club? Can it happen that any player wants to leave because of this? I absolutely no. I think no player's going to leave just because Raul's gone. Not at all. Look, Raul was a fairly popular figure at the club. You know, everyone liked him. He was a nice guy. Whenever I spoke to him, he was a really nice guy, and you enjoyed conversation with him. But you know, no one's going to leave. No player's going to say, "Oh, Raul, yeah, he's gone. I want to go." It's just not going to happen. So I don't think it's going to have any real issue. Unknown source. Good evening. Hashtag free party says, what would you say the chances of Tyrese John Jules making it Arsenal? I think that, you know, it's difficult because you got Eddie in ahead of him, you got Gabriel, you got Gabriel Martinelli, sorry, you got Auba at the moment, you got Lacazette, so it's hard, but Arsenal really like him. Arteta likes him. Arsenal really like what he brings. You know, he's not just, you kind of look at Eddie. Eddie's very much the penalty box finisher. Tyrese has got a lot more to his game than Eddie has, I think. But he'll go out on loan again this season. That will happen fairly quickly, I would say. Not sure yet if it's going to be another one to League One or the Championship, or he'll go out abroad. Abroad is a possibility, and he needs a good season on loan, I think, Tyrese, and it'll be good. He was unlucky last year. He went at Lincoln, he made a bit of an impact, scored early on, may not have scored after that, but then he got his injury. He still played well, but then he got his injury, and that he really struggled with that. And he was unfortunate, so he had to come back and cut that loan short. But I think if he has a decent loan spell this summer, this season, gets a lot of football behind him, then Arsenal will be really interested to watch how he gets on, because he is very, very highly rated at the club. Jamal Sampson says, will George Lewis be a regular for the first team next season like Martinelli, or will he have to wait for a few more years? He'll have to wait a few more years. He's very much part of the academy, George Lewis. He's been brought in for the under-23 setup, not like Martinelli. Martinelli we were told straight away that he's a young player, but he's going to get the opportunity to impress in the summer. If he takes that, then he'll be part of the first team, just like Guendouzi the year before. But George Lewis is very much under-23s material. You know, he's so raw. He's barely played any football at any sort of level. So he's very much going to be under 23s. I wouldn't be expecting to see George Lewis at Arsenal first team this season, even in the cup competitions. Franklin says, is selling Lacazette to Juventus a good deal for Arsenal, owing to the fact that he's the only senior striker in the ranks aside Auba? Then he asked about who replaced him. I've already spoke about that. And then is Nketiah and Martinelli worth to be relied on? Look, I think Martinelli and Nketiah are fantastic young talents. We saw what Martinelli did before last season before his injury. I do think you've got to sign a replacement though. If you sign Lacazette, I don't think you can't sell a player like Lacazette and not replace him. It'd send out a terrible message, and Arsenal, it'd make Arsenal much, much weaker next season. Is selling Lacazette a good deal to Juventus or to any other club? Look, it's a good deal if a decent price comes in, or if Arsenal get offered a good player in return, which might be the case given the way the transfer market's going to work this summer. So it's tough for me to say that if it's a good deal or not, because I don't know what the eventual price or potential deal will be. But as I said before, they have to replace him. You can't sell a player like Lacazette and not replace him. It makes you drastically weaker next season. Sends out a terrible message as well. So has to be done. Just going through another one about Emil Smith Rowe. Good to see there's quite a lot of interest in Smith Rowe because I really like Smith Rowe. I mean, a lot of people are talking about Gabriel. Look, by the time this video gets uploaded, everything could change for Gabriel because we're at that moment now where a decision is going to be made. Bids have gone in for Gabriel. Bids have been accepted for Gabriel. Now it's time for Gabriel to make a decision. Everyone's waiting for that decision. As far as I'm aware, that decision hasn't been absolutely made yet. Arsenal are very, very hopeful that they're going to be able to get a deal done for him. Napoli haven't given up yet. Everton, as far as we're, have given up. Manchester United, reports that they are coming in with late offers. I'm not sure if that's true. I think Arsenal are very, very far down the line. We're getting this one done for Gabriel, but we're going to have to wait and see. Everyone's calling it a saga. I don't really think it's a saga. It was only a couple of weeks ago. This wasn't even really a thing, Arsenal going for Gabriel. It's just because of social media has kind of made it a saga because everyone wants it. Once they know it's potentially happening, everyone wants to see it now. You know, 2 weeks isn't a saga. It's not at all. So I think we've just got to be a little bit patient and see how it plays out. Arsenal are confident. They've worked very hard to get this deal done. Now it's just about getting it over the line. So we'll have to wait and see. But you know, it's very, very possible that Arsenal will be signing Gabriel. Last one here on this video before I will be doing another one. Like I said, I'm going to split this into a few because I don't want it to run on and I'm aware of how much time this one's been going on for already. Is there any rumours of Reece Nelson leaving the club this summer, even permanent on loan? It's a tough one. There are rumours that something could happen with Reece Nelson this summer, especially with Willian coming in, and you got Pepe already over there as well, who can play on the, you know, he's a right-sided player. Willian very, very good on the right-hand side. That's where he tended to play for Chelsea, although he can play on the left, and I know there has been talk that Arsenal might use him as a central area. And Reece, if he's going to be there, he's got to think he's probably not going to get that many minutes. So I think something might happen with Reece Nelson before the start of the season. Well, maybe not before the start of the season, before the end of the transfer window. It would more likely be a loan, I would say. I don't think Arsenal are ready to cut their losses straight away on Reece Nelson. Mikel Arteta really likes him, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if by the time the transfer window shut, that Reece Nelson does head off somewhere on loan. So that's it for the first part of this video. Thank you very, very much for watching. I will be uploading more of it as well over the next couple of days, just to basically, as I said at the beginning, make sure it's not a massive hour-long thing that you get totally bored of by the end of. So more of this to come. Thank you once again for all your comments and questions.